Today, we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit. We're going to do something a little different. Instead of just sort of like dipping our toes into a place, we're going to like really dive deep and think about maybe even living there for a while.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah. And the place we're going to be thinking about living in is Tokyo, Japan.
nice.
Yeah. For like a year, maybe.
Oh, wow. An extended stay.
An extended stay, exactly. And we have a couple of really interesting resources that we're going to be looking at today that kind of give us some insight into like what it might be like to actually live in Tokyo, not just visit, like, as a tourist, but what it would be like to, go to the grocery store, get around, and just kind of like experience daily life.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts, and also how to avoid certain things maybe that might not be apparent to a first time traveler, and of course how to save money.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, always important.
Always important.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at all that stuff today, and we're going to be covering a range of things from like what it's like to just live there day to day to monthly expenses, if we can find that information, and of course, what to eat.
Oh, the food.
Yeah, because Tokyo's known for its food.
Absolutely.
And then there's these islands
Oh,
that are part of Tokyo.
Oh.
So we'll talk about those too. It'll be fun.
okay. Let's dive in.
Okay. So the first thing that comes to mind is like when you're living somewhere for a long time, you got to think about local customs, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And our material doesn't really lay out every single custom in detail,
Mm-hmm.
but it's clear that being aware of local customs is super important when you're entering a new culture, for any extended period of time. It's like the foundation for having a smooth experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like common sense. Be respectful.
Hmm.
Observe how people interact.
Hmm.
Be polite. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now another big thing is getting around, and I'm sure Tokyo has an amazing public transportation system.
I heard it's incredible.
Yeah. But our information right now doesn't actually get into the specifics of like the trains and the buses and all that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but that's definitely something you'd need to research
For sure.
if you were planning to live there for a year. But for now, we're going to be focusing more on, the culinary scene and these islands.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But yeah, getting around, super important. Make a note of that.
Definitely.
What about things to maybe avoid?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
I mean, our sources don't have like a bullet list of like, don't do this or don't do that.
Right.
But I think it stands to reason that being aware of peak tourist seasons could be really helpful.
Yeah, I bet it gets crowded.
Yeah, so maybe if you're living there, you plan your trips to certain places during off-peak times.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then also just being mindful of cultural differences, like even the subtle things, like how people communicate with each other, personal space, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just be observant. Pay attention.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's get to the good stuff. Money.
Right.
Yeah. How to not spend it.
Ah.
How to make it last. And our information actually has some really good advice on this. And one of the big takeaways is embrace the local food scene.
Like street food.
Yeah, street food. Small eateries, like little family-run places.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, because not only is it going to be super authentic and delicious, but it's going to be way cheaper than like going to, fancy restaurants all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can get like
Yeah.
amazing ramen for super cheap.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's a good tip. We also get the sense that, looking at accommodation outside of the absolute city center could save you some money.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have like specific neighborhood comparisons in terms of cost of living, but it's kind of like a general rule of thumb in a lot of big cities that the further you get from the center, the cheaper things get.
Right.
So that's something to think about. And you might find that, you're willing to have a slightly longer commute if it means you can afford a nicer place, or just, save some money.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you might discover some cool neighborhoods that way too.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also, just like anywhere else, keep an eye out for deals.
Oh, yeah. Coupons, specials, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like look at local flyers, community boards, maybe even some online resources.
So good tips.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's actually talk about the food.
Yeah,
Because Tokyo's famous for it.
absolutely.
And our information does not disappoint. It calls Tokyo a sushi paradise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Like, it's an island nation, right?
Right.
They have access to amazing seafood.
Like this.
And they've been perfecting the art of sushi for centuries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a whole cultural thing.
Yeah. And apparently there's every kind of sushi you can imagine. Like from classic nigiri, the little pieces of fish on rice,
Yeah.
to like the most innovative, crazy rolls you've ever seen.
I bet they have some wild combinations.
Yeah. So there's something for everyone.
Nice.
Yeah. And then if sushi's not your thing, there's ramen.
Oh, yeah. Ramen.
Yeah. And apparently Tokyo's ramen scene is just as diverse and just as passionate.
I love that.
Yeah. So they have everything from like rich, creamy pork-based tonkotsu broth.
Oh, I've had that. It's so good.
Yeah, it's like a meal in itself.
It is.
To like lighter, more delicate soy sauce-based broths called shoyu.
Oh, wow. I haven't tried that kind.
And apparently there's like regional variations and like every little shop has its own twist on it.
Oh, wow. So you could like go on a ramen tour.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Then we have tempura.
Oh, tempura?
Yeah, which is, that classic Japanese dish where they take seafood or vegetables and they lightly batter it and deep fry it.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be super light and crispy.
Yeah, not greasy.
Not greasy,
Yeah.
yeah. And I always think of it as like a really elegant dish.
It is. It's very refined.
Yeah. Then we have tonkatsu, which is kind of like the opposite of tempura in a way.
How so?
Well, it's like a breaded pork cutlet.
Oh.
And it's deep fried.
Okay.
But it's like a thicker, heartier kind of dish.
So it's like comfort food.
Yeah, totally comfort food. They usually serve it with like shredded cabbage and rice.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah. And then okonomiyaki.
Okonomiyaki.
Yeah. Have you ever had that?
I don't think so.
Well, it's like a savory pancake.
Okay.
And you can put all kinds of stuff in it.
Like what?
Like meat, seafood, vegetables. And they cook it on a griddle, like right in front of you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And it's like a really interactive, communal kind of dish.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Then we have yakitori, which is like grilled chicken skewers.
Oh, I love yakitori.
Yeah. And it's like super popular street food.
Yeah, you see it everywhere.
And they have all these different ways of preparing it, like just salt or with a sauce or with different seasoning.
Yeah, and it's perfect to the beer.
Oh, yeah, totally. Then we have onigiri.
Onigiri. What's that?
So it's like a rice ball.
Okay.
And they often fill it with savory stuff.
Like what?
Like pickled plum.
Okay.
Or like seasoned tuna or salmon.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah. It's like a really good portable snack.
Yeah, perfect for like a quick lunch.
Exactly. And then rounding out our little food tour here, we have soba and udon.
Oh, yeah.
Which are noodles.
Noodles?
Yeah. So soba's made from buckwheat.
Okay.
And udon's made from wheat.
Okay.
And you can have them hot or cold, like in a soup or with a dipping sauce.
I've definitely had udon soup before.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Wow. That's a lot of food.
Yeah. That's just like the tip of the iceberg, though.
I know. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Me too. But here's where things get really interesting.
Oh, wow.
So apparently Tokyo is more than just the city. Like, it's also a bunch of islands.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, like, the administrative region of Tokyo extends way out into the Pacific Ocean.
That's wild.
And it includes all these islands.
Wow.
And each island has its own unique character, its own culture, and its own local ingredients.
So there's like a whole other side to Tokyo that most people don't know about.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Tokyo Metropolitan Government has actually created a guidebook called Locavore Dining in the Tokyo Islands.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it's all about promoting the local food production and consumption on these islands.
So it's like a farm to table kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's more like ocean to table, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And the guidebook highlights 82 restaurants on these islands.
Wow.
That are like specifically welcoming to foreign visitors.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. And a lot of them have English menus.
Even better.
Yeah. And apparently there's a similar guidebook for restaurants in like the main part of Tokyo.
So they're really pushing this local food movement.
Yeah, it seems like it. And the goal is to foster understanding and expand the production and consumption of these local products.
Which is great.
Yeah. It's good for the economy. It's good for the environment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the guidebook also provides like overviews of each island, how to get there, and maps.
Oh, so it's like a real travel guide.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
And the restaurants that are featured on the guidebook, they really focus on using island-grown or island-caught ingredients.
So you're getting like a true taste of the islands.
Exactly, yeah. And they're really transparent about it, too. Like, they'll tell you exactly where their ingredients come from.
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's actually talk about some of the islands.
Okay.
So in the guidebook, they highlight some of the Aizu Islands.
Aizu Islands.
Yeah. And some of them are Oshima.
Oshima.
Nijima and Shikinajima, which are actually 2 islands, but they're really close together.
Okay.
Kuzushima,
Kuzushima.
Miyakijima,
Mikurashima.
Mikurashima.
And Hachijojima. Hachijojima.
Yeah. So those are just some of them.
They sound pretty exotic.
Yeah, they do. And then further out, there's the Ogasawara Islands.
Ogasawara Island.
Yeah. And the 2 main inhabited islands there are Chichijima and Hahajima.
Chichijima and Hahajima.
Yeah. And those are actually pretty far from mainland Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So to give you a better idea of what the island culinary experience might be like, the guidebook gives some examples of restaurants and local specialties on Oshima.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So one place is Sushiku.
Sushiku.
Yeah. And they're known for their shimadon,
Shimadon.
which is a rice bowl with all kinds of local fish, including tuna and bekko.
Gakko.
Yeah, it's a type of fish.
Okay.
And they also do island-style nigiri sushi.
Okay.
And they have this thing called bekkodon,
Bekadon.
which is bekko served on a hot stone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Then there's Kanichi Ryokan.
Kanichi Ryokan.
Yeah. It's a traditional Japanese inn,
Okay.
and they offer these like multi-course dinners
Oh, no.
featuring fresh, seasonal ingredients.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah. And some of the things they highlight are aji sashimi.
Aji sashimi.
Yeah, and deep-fried minced fish.
Okay.
Then there's a place called Green Tights Coffee.
Green Tights Coffee.
Yeah, I know. Interesting name.
It is.
But they specialize in cafe au lait made with Oshima milk.
Okay.
And they have this thing called the Gritai float,
Green Tide Float.
which is Oshima milk ice cream and Brazilian chocolate coffee.
Oh, wow. Interesting combination.
Yeah. Then there's Triton Island ice cream.
Triton Island ice cream.
And they make ice cream from Oshima milk.
Okay.
And they have all these flavors using local ingredients like passion fruit and kinako.
Kinako.
Yeah, it's like roasted soybean flour.
Okay.
Then there's a place called Otomodachi Ashokujidokoro.
Otomodaki Ashukujudoko.
Yeah, and it's near Motomaki Port,
Okay.
and they serve bekadon.
More Bekadon.
Yeah, and other dishes featuring seasonal fish.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Then there's Book Tea Bed Aizuoshima,
Book Tea Bed Izushima.
and they have sweet and spicy chicken hot sandwiches
Okay.
with island chili peppers.
Oh, nice.
And they have Azuki butter hot sandwiches.
Azuki butter.
Yeah. It's like red bean paste
Okay.
made with Oshima butter.
Okay.
And they also have ashitaba tea.
Ashitaba tea.
Yeah, we'll talk about ashitaba in a bit.
Okay.
Then there's Sasaki Sushi,
Tsuaki Zushi.
which is another sushi place.
Okay.
And they're known for bekko sushi.
More Beko.
Yeah, where they marinate the bekko in soy sauce, sake, and green chili peppers.
Oh, wow. Sounds spicy.
Yeah. And they also have nigiri sushi with fresh local fish.
Okay.
Then there's Ryokan Tsubakiyama.
Ryokan Tsubakiyama.
Yeah, another inn.
Okay.
And they highlight their seasonal fish sashimi
Okay.
and a dish called oyajidon.
Oh, Yajida.
Yeah, and no idea what that is.
Then either.
Then there's ichimin.
Ichimi.
Yeah. And they have island-style spaghetti.
Island style spaghetti.
Yeah. And smoothies made with local fruits like strawberries and grapes.
Okay.
And ashitaba.
More Ashitaba.
Yeah. Then there's Ohiya Fruit Factory Oshima.
Oh, your Fruit Factory Ocean.
Yeah. And they focus on the fruit.
There
They
you
do like compotes, confitures, and smoothies
Okay.
using local fruits like figs, kiwi, and passion fruit.
Oh, wow. That sounds good.
Yeah. Then there's Starfish and Coffee.
Starfish and coffee.
Yeah. And it's near Okada Port.
Okay.
And they do cafe au lait with Oshima milk
Okay.
and lunch boxes with island seaweed, fish, meat, and vegetables.
Oh, wow. That's a whole meal.
Yeah. Then there's Tokyo Vonten.
Tokyo Von 10.
Yeah. And they're a cafe that's really into ashitaba.
Okay.
They have ashitaba shaved ice.
Ashitaba shaved ice.
Yeah. And taiyaki pancakes made with Oshima milk and salt.
Taiyaki pancakes.
Yeah. They're like fish-shaped pancakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then finally there's Oshibana.
Oshibana.
Yeah. And it's a cafe with pressed flower artwork.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And they have set meals with pesticide-free local vegetables
Okay.
and a dessert called cream and mitsu.
Cream and Mitsu.
Yeah. Made with Tengusa algae agar from the ocean near Oshima.
Tingusa algae agar.
Yeah. It's like a seaweed jelly.
Okay.
So that's just a taste of what Oshima has to offer.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And that's just one island.
I know. It's amazing.
So beyond Oshima, some of the other local ingredients that are highlighted are ashitaba.
Ashitaba.
Yeah. It's like this unique herb that grows on the Aizo Islands.
Okay.
And camellia oil.
Camellia oil.
Yeah. which is made from the seeds of the camellia flower.
Okay.
And it's used for cooking and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the overall sense we get is that these islands are just like a completely different pace of life.
Yeah, I bet it's so much more relaxed in the city.
Yeah. And it's all about nature and local traditions.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah. Now, the question that's probably on everyone's mind is, how much does it cost to live in Tokyo? Yeah. And unfortunately, our information doesn't have like specific numbers.
Yeah.
But I think we can safely assume that Tokyo is not a cheap city.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. But I think there are ways to save money.
Like we talked about with the food.
Exactly. And like choosing to live a little further outside of the city center.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely something you'd need to research.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So wrapping things up here, Tokyo seems like an amazing place to visit, whether it's for a short trip or an extended stay.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, it's a city of contrasts, you know?
What do you mean?
Well, on the one hand, you have this like hyper-modern, vibrant city with incredible food and all the latest technology.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you have these islands that are like a step back in time.
Yeah, with their own unique culture and cuisine.
Exactly. And it's all within reach.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So we hope we've inspired you to maybe think about visiting Tokyo someday.
Yeah, even if it's just to try some of that delicious food.
Or maybe even to live there for a while.
That would be an adventure.
Yeah. So here's a thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
If you were to go to Tokyo, what dish would you try first?
That's a tough one.
I know, right? There's so many options.
Maybe that Biko sushi,
Oh, yeah, that sounded good.
or the ramen,
Oh, yeah, can't go wrong with ramen.
or the tempura,
Or the tonkatsu.
or the okonomiyaki,
Or the yakitori.
or the onigiri,
Or the soba.
or the udon.
Or maybe you'd skip all that and head straight for the islands.
Yeah, and try some ashitaba ice cream.
Exactly. The possibilities are endless.
They are.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Tokyo.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.